Hi guys, welcome back to the Alex Beyond Thoughts podcast with me, your host, Alex. I'm so glad to have you here. In today's episode, I kind of just wanted to, I feel like every episode with me is a riff. I don't really write a script. I don't really know what I'm going to talk about until I talk about it, but I feel that's because I'm an intuitive person. If you heard people screaming outside, some boys playing football outside my window. So if you hear them, that's why. Yeah, I was just saying, I'm an intuitive person, so I feel like if I try and plan too much, too far in advance, I get very disinterested by the time I actually have to come and execute it. So every episode I basically record is actually just me riffing, because otherwise it probably doesn't feel very authentic. So yeah, that's me. And I also say so a lot, so if you've noticed that, it's basically every other word. Also I say like a lot. I don't think I say it as much as I say so, but you'll get used to me. Anyway. We are on episode 12, I think, and this is the second episode of the revival, should we call it, instead of the Renaissance, because I am going to see Beyonce this Saturday, so the Renaissance would be a good fitting title, but we'll call it the revival for now. If you prefer Renaissance, let me know. We'll change it to Renaissance. So yeah, welcome back to the revival. What I wanted to talk about today is basically about setting rules for yourself where no rules need to be set. So I'm talking about keeping yourself confined to these preconceived notions, to these things that you're trying to abide by that are actually made up, the things that you imagine would be the rules because you're so trained to stick to a certain set of rules from everything. So at school, we're supposed to stick to certain rules, even the unspoken ones. At work, we have to stick to a certain set of rules, even the unspoken ones. In our family, there's unspoken rules and expected rules. Like, there's not really a time in our life where we're not following someone else's perceived or imagined or made up or set rules. And I kind of keep applying that to myself in my own life, even though I can't speak today, so if you hear me stuttering over my words, just ignore me. I'm an autonomous being. I am an adult. I live on my own money. I say my own money. I live on, so far, student loans and what I earn in this business. But I live for the most part on my own money. I live by myself for the most part, other than when I move home to my parents' house. I have my own relationships. I don't depend on anyone for like my physical well-being or realistically my mental health, other than just like if there's ever anything I need, I ask for help kind of thing. But yeah, I'm an individual human being with no actual set of rules for life other than the law of the country I live in, which is the UK. That is the only set of rules I have to live by, abiding by the actual law of the country. But still, I set these rules for myself and I set these expectations and limitations subconsciously because I think that's the correct way to be. And to a certain extent, yes, I shouldn't be harming others. I shouldn't be doing things that are going to cause other people issues, that kind of thing. Those kind of rules, yeah, you should keep those. Don't just go around and start like punching people in the face because you feel like there's no rules in life. There are definitely rules in that sense. But there's all these rules I put on myself and to my business that I'm coming to realise actually mean nothing. But I treat them as if they are the entire world and like I have to abide by them. Even though the only person expecting me to abide by them is myself. So I want to talk about that today. So basically, I was having a thought I don't want to record a podcast because I've set the precedent that I film on it. Okay, so, which is basically going to be the motto for this whole episode. Okay, so what? And then I was like, Alex, you could film a 3-minute podcast episode and upload it. And that's okay because this is your business. This is your podcast. This is your space to create and to help people and to give your contribution to the world. Who's to say a 2-minute 50 podcast isn't good enough? Just me. The only person putting that expectation, those set of rules on myself is me. And there was another thing came up. I was scared to rebrand my content, and I spoke about a lot about branding in the last episode. I was kind of nervous when I was making this branding to be like, wait, but what if it's too much? What if it's too much of a change at once? What if I have to just sort of edge into it? What if I need to do something else so that people like it? What if this isn't professional enough? But like, who's to say what I create in my own business that I run with no one else? Who's to say that I have to set those rules for myself? Who's to say that I can't create the branding I want to create just because I like it? This is my business, and if someone wants to invest in it, then absolutely fucking great. I'm more than welcome you into my world if you want to invest in it. But you don't get to set the expectations for me. Only I do. And somehow, I'm still setting myself these rules of what other people will think, what other people would want to buy into. And yes, there's an element of, if you want to market to people, you have to consider them. But I don't have to set rules for myself based on what other people think I should have or should do. Or what I think I can only do. Like, I can only do this because that type of person would buy, or that type of person would like this content. Like, these are all made up rules, Alex. And whoever's listening, these are made up rules. These are made up expectations. I can record a 3-minute podcast episode. I can record a 2-hour podcast episode. I can go on camera on my podcast. I can choose not to go on camera. Week to week, day to day, it doesn't matter. Like, I need to stop setting these unrealistic and also limiting expectations and rules for myself, because who's to say I can't charge someone 20 grand to have an hour of my time? Like, that's not breaking any rules as long as I'm doing it legally. It's breaking no rules if I decide to charge 20 grand for my 1 hour of time. It's a lot of money, yes. I'd have to execute a lot, yes. But if someone else, an autonomous human being, wanted to pay 20 grand for my time, for my hour, why would I not allow them to? And I'm not saying I'm coming out with the 20 grand offer, don't worry. If you are worried and thinking, why would you do that? I'm not doing it. But I'm saying, the point is, if someone decided to come to me tomorrow and say, I want to pay 20 grand for an hour of your time tomorrow, am I supposed to say no because all of these preconceived notions that I have to be this, I have to do that, I have to meet these expectations, I have to have a reason for having someone give me 20 grand? Like, no, actually, I don't. You don't need someone to tell you that. You don't need to abide by these rules. These are made up notions. It's literally a 2 followed by 4 zeros? Yes. Okay, can I have maths? It's a 2 followed by 4 zeros on a bunch of zeros and ones on a computer screen. What actual set of rules do we set for ourselves on this thing? And obviously money carries a lot of trauma and a lot of everything, to be honest, but realistically it's digits on a screen and they get transferred about and they equate to things. But who's to say that I can't charge 20 grand for something as long as it's fair and like someone's doing it of their free will? I put that limit on myself because I'm like, oh no, but someone doesn't want to spend 20 grand for an hour of my time. Someone doesn't want to trust in me and believe in me to spend 20 grand for an hour of my time. That's me assuming. That's me setting limits. That's me setting expectations. And that's me protecting my ego from disappointment. It's me staying small because I'm worried about what the imaginary person would think. And that's no life to live. Right? And what I really want to say here is that you can if you want to, but you should try not to spend the rest of your life adhering to these made up rules that you set for yourself, for your business, for your work, for your family, for your children, for your partner. You shouldn't be setting, I say shouldn't. You should try not to set these expectations and these rules for people, because what's the actual difference anyway? Like, what is the actual difference anyway? If you tell yourself, I can't have this business because I don't deserve the money. Why? If you tell yourself you can't record that TikTok because no one's going to like it anyway, so you'll just be embarrassed. Why? Like, actually ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen in this situation? I kind of talked about this in another podcast episode, but like, what's the worst that can happen if I charge someone 20 grand for an hour of my time? I get 20 grand, they spend an hour with me, they're happy, I'm happy. Like, there is actually there's no bad outcome for that. But you make up all of these, I don't want to say lies, because I don't think lies are the right word, but you make up all these narratives in your head of what this would happen, or this would happen, or this would happen, or this would happen. But you don't actually know it because it's not happened. You've just set up a whole story. There's a whole storyline in your head for what could or should or would happen if this imaginary thing did happen. And I feel like I'm getting too abstract now, so I'm going to bring it down a bit. I'm going to round it up a little bit more. But the point here is that in my business, I am the boss. No one else gets to tell me what is right or wrong. If I decide to use X launch strategy this week, and I decide to use Y launch strategy that week, and I decide to use Z launch strategy the week after that, I get to do that. No one can tell me it's wrong. No one can tell me it's right either. And that's probably the most scary thing. It's up to no one else to tell me that I'm doing well in my business. It's up to no one else to tell me that I'm doing the correct thing. It's up to no one else to tell me if I'm spending too much money or spending too little money. No one else has that authority but me. And handing over that authority and handing over that power and hoping someone else can set the rules for my business so that it succeeds or so that it fails, like, just handing over that power takes it all away from me. And sometimes that's what you subconsciously want. Sometimes you subconsciously want someone to take power and take control so that if it does go to shit, it's not your fault. Also, if it does succeed, oh great, that's great, but like, I'm not responsible if I lose it all again, kind of thing. But here's the thing, you are the owner of your life, of your future, of the choices you make, of the choices you choose not to make. You are the owner of all of that. And you actually do get to decide to live without rules. You actually do get to decide to change your mind. You do get to decide to be a contradiction. You do decide to get to live in duality. One minute I can decide this is the best launch strategy in the world and I'm so excited for this. And the next minute I can decide, actually, you know what, I can do better. I can do better and I will do better or whatever. But only I get to decide that. I can't build my business based on what 17 other people are doing. I can take advice from them, or I can take guidance, or I can try to avoid the mistakes they made in hopes to time collapse or to do it better. But I can't be putting these decisions in other people's hands and trying to follow someone point for point, building my own thing. My business is based on me. I'm a coach based on my own personal experience. So if I base my business off the launch of Apple or the launch of Tesla or the launch of Spotify, I'm probably not going to build a very good business because I haven't had the personal experience, the knowledge, the whatever to build a carbon copy of that business. Some people probably have that skill. I'm sure there's people in the world that do. I'm not one of them. Quite frankly, I will probably not be the next owner of Spotify. But that's okay because I'm the owner of my business and my business gets to be the best fucking thing in the world to me. It's okay if it's not the best business in the world to Sally down the road. I don't really care what Sally thinks. And that's not to say that my business won't be bigger or better than Spotify. Not to say that at all. But I don't need to build the foundations of my business based on what 10 other people think and what they think I should do and how they think I should launch my products or sell my products or how I should price them. If I decide tomorrow to spend 20 grand on a mentor, I will. That's no one else's business. There's no rules to live by to say that you shouldn't or couldn't or should, like, you aren't going to spend 20 grand on that. No one can tell you that. They can have opinions, sure. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Doesn't mean I have to listen to it. It doesn't mean I have to care what your opinion is, because I am a grown adult. I have my own mind, and I can make my own decisions. And you are too. If I told you tomorrow that it's a silly idea to spend £10 on a bloody kebab. You can let that advice go through one ear and out the other and go on your merry way and buy your kebab. It's my choice if I don't. It's your choice if you do. And I kind of just realised, like, I was letting all of these small expectations and all of these small rules, like I can't record a 3-minute podcast episode, or I can't decide that I don't want to shoot this thing on my TikTok, or I can decide that I want to say this on my stories. I was letting all of these things that I see other people do and not do dictate what I do in my business and what I do in my life and what I do in my work. And it's just not the way to live. It's not the most optimal way that I can live my life, because it's partly comparison. It's partly trying to protect my ego, trying to protect me from failing, because if 7 other people did it that way, but only 3 people did it this way, I should go with the majority because they mostly did it right, rather than the 3 people that are doing alternatively, but they're also kind of successful. Like, all of these things. And the reality is, they are made up. All of these rules are made up. You can't spend 20 grand on that. You can spend it on something better. That's made up. I'm sorry, it is. You can't record a 3-minute podcast episode. I'm sorry, that's made up. I can, and I will, if I want to. You can't spend £1,000 on a mentor. That's a waste of money. To who? A waste of money to who? A waste of my zeros and ones that are easily replaced. To who? Because it's not to me. I get value out of it. You might not, but I do. So with all of these things, and I'm sure you can insert a million other examples of where people tell you what you should and shouldn't do, what the rules are. You can't build a business doing this. You can build a business doing this. All of these things are genuinely made up. What works for someone will not work for someone else. And if you keep living your life based off of all these tiny little rules that are literal made up things, you will still wonder in 10 years why you're unhappy. You will still wonder in 10 years why your business wasn't a success. You will still wonder in 10 years why your relationships keep failing. Because you're holding yourself accountable to a made up set of rules that actually don't matter. And yeah, I feel like this is a really roundabout way of saying, like, fuck what other people think and, like, just make your own rules. And even then, scrap the rules, because you can actually do whatever you want. But I hope you got something from this. Yeah, it was a roundabout way of saying it, but, you know, what's 19 minutes of your time? It's a good time. We're having a chat, you know? I love our little chats. So, although this was meant to be like a 4-minute episode, I ended up riffing, as we do, into a 20-minute episode. But life is life. I make the rules. I am the owner of this podcast, and I make the goddamn rules. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you in the next one, whenever that is. Okay, guys. Bye.